TII Item 491, January 30th, 2020. iOS 13.3.1, Gold Master. In this episode, we talk about Apple's Q4 2019 results, iOS 13.3.1 Gold Master, iPhone SE 2 rumors, a Kickstarter project or two, plus listener feedback and more, all covered in depth starting after the intro.
Welcome to Today in iPhone.
I like it a lot.
Today in iPhone.
Hey, caller!
Oh yeah!
My beautiful iPhone, which I never have out of my hand and that I do everything with and has become an extension of who I am.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bombas Socks. For 20% off your first purchase, visit bombas.com/TII. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Rob, and you are listening to the Today in iOS podcast. First up, I want to thank Jeff for sending in the music you hear in the background. Jeff wrote, "Hi, Rob. I made this song called Ever After on my iPhone using the Garageband app. For free downloads and more music, follow me at JeffJ6 on Twitter. Regards, Jeff J." Thanks, Jeff, for the music. And folks, I will put the full song at the end of the episode. I also want to thank my iPhone for sending in the artwork for today's show. And it's actually a picture of my kids in our front row seats for the Chiefs 49ers game. And if you're listening to this after the Super Bowl, no, not that Chiefs 49ers game. This is a picture from last season's preseason game, the last preseason game of the year at Arrowhead. Definitely not paying $10,000 plus per seat for Super Bowl tickets for that front row. These were, at least from the picture, those were about $70 each from my StubHub app. Text for the artwork was added with the Over app, and folks, you can see this artwork in the free TI app via the bonus button for episode 491 or at instagram.com/todayinios and also at facebook.com/todayinios. If you have some artwork and or music that you have created on your iOS device that you would like to share with the audience, please email it to me at todayinios@gmail.com, and please make sure to include which app or apps you use to create said artwork and or music. Apple had their quarterly conference call this past week to talk about how October, November, December 2019 sales went. The TL/DR, 2 thumbs up emoticons. All right, now into the details. Revenue for the quarter, $91.8 billion versus $84.3 billion in the year-ago quarter and $64 billion the previous quarter. Total cash on hand, $207 billion. That's up $1.2 billion for the quarter previous, and that was at $205.8 billion previously. And it's up even though they gave back $25 billion to investors via buybacks and dividends, with the vast majority of that being buybacks. Dividends were only $3.5 billion of the $25 billion given back, quote unquote. Last quarter sales, iPhones, wearables, and services revenue all went up when you look year over year. But iPad and Mac revenue went down year over year. Per the iPhones, $56.0 billion in revenue versus $52.0 billion in revenue a year ago quarter, and $33.4 billion the previous quarter. iPhone 11 was the best-selling iPhone every week last quarter. iPads, $6 billion in revenue versus $7.4 billion the year-ago quarter and $4.7 billion the previous quarter. Macs, $7.2 billion versus $7.4 billion a year-ago quarter and $7 billion last quarter. Half the customers for Mac and iPads were new to those products. Wearables was $10 billion in revenue versus $7.3 billion a year ago quarter and $6.5 billion last quarter. Wearables were an all-time record in all markets. So every market was an all-time record for the last quarter. And this segment is now the size of a Fortune 150 company. 75% of Apple Watch buyers last quarter were new to Apple Watch. Services were $12.7 billion in revenue versus $10.9 billion a year ago and $12.5 billion the quarter previous. For Apple Store, it had a single-day sales record on January 1st, 2020 of $386 million, an increase of 20% year over the previous January 1st, 2019, which was a previous one-day record. Plus, Apple reported between Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, customers spent $1.4 billion on apps. So basically, $1.8 billion in 8 days for apps, and that's for new apps and in-app purchases. Apple Pay revenue and transactions doubled last year, year over year for the quarter. And Apple News now has over 100 million monthly users. Some other miscellaneous notes from the call. Apple News Plus is adding new titles. Spring 2020, more cities are being added to tap to pay for public transportation via Apple Pay. February 13th is when the next dividend will be paid. For those that own stock, I think they said on February 11th. And Tim Cook's comments on 5G, because he was pushed quite a bit about what are the future plans, which he never gives, but he did say this on 5G. We're in the early innings of its deployment, not commenting on future products, but he did say in the US it's rolled out faster than it is in most other places. Apple TV Plus will be an ad-free environment. That is what customers want. And that was the message from Tim. People were pushing to see if they were going to add advertising in Apple TV Plus. And Tim basically said, no way, no how. That's not what the customers want. Thank you, Tim. Revenue estimates for next quarter, or the quarter we're currently in, are between 63 to 67 billion. They commented it's a very wide range because of unfolding health issues in China, i.e. coronavirus. And they did mention that there was a double-digit growth for iPhones last quarter, year over year for China. They are limiting business to China to business critical at this point because of the coronavirus. Per their supply chain, those in Wuhan, any of those suppliers that were in Wuhan, were all secondary sources. So no primary sources in their supply chain from Wuhan. But many factories are delayed as far as reopening until at least February 10th. Per how the press and analysts reacted to the whole conference call, well, you have to look at what they expected. Revenue was estimated by analysts to be at $88.5 billion, and it came in at $91.8 billion. So nice upside there. Earnings per share were estimated at $4.55 per share, and they came in at $4.99 per share. It's a huge uptick or positive miss. iPhone revenue was estimated at $51.6 billion going into the quarter, and it actually came in at $56 billion. So again, a big uptick there. And the current quarter's revenue guidance was estimated, they thought Apple was going to come in at around $62.5 billion, but again, Apple gave that wide range of 63 to 67, all of which are above what the analysts expected. Overall, the call was a huge win for Apple, or as Tim Cook said, quote, it was sort of a blockbuster quarter all the way around, unquote. While Apple does not give specific breakdowns on which devices sold better than others, other than to say the iPhone 11 won every week, Flurry Analytics does look at device activations. For the important holiday week, December 25th to the 31st, the top activated smartphones in the US were, first place goes to the iPhone 11, which we already knew, with 6.16% of activations. Second goes to the iPhone XR at 5.26%. Third goes to the iPhone 7 at 3.31%. Fourth goes to the iPhone 8 at 3.1%. Fifth goes to the iPhone 11 Pro Max at 3.01%. Sixth place to the iPhone 8 Plus at 2.97%. Seventh place to the iPhone 6 Plus at 2.95%. Eighth place goes to the iPhone 7 Plus at 2.35%. And ninth place goes to the iPhone 10 at 2.23%. And just in case if you were wondering if this was the top 10 list for iPhones activated or all smartphones, it is actually all smartphones. And 10th place goes to the Xiaomi Mi 4 LTE at 2.16%. Correct. The ninth best-selling activated iPhone in the US was better than the best non-iPhone smartphone from all other manufacturers. Ouch. Overall, during that week, Apple had 42.8% of activations versus 23.5% for all Samsung phones versus 33.8% for all other manufacturers. So yes, Samsung's still up there, but Apple was almost double where Samsung was. And just to let you know, I did go back and double and triple check that 7th place iPhone 6 Plus. That was not the 6S Plus. That was the 6 Plus that they have listed. Maybe it was a typo on their part. In any case, very good quarter for Apple, and even better results there when you start looking at how individual handsets are doing from Apple and how much more dominant the top 9 is than any other smartphone out there from any other manufacturer. Switching over to iOS news, and actually just OS news in general here, Apple released a bunch of updates this past week. iOS 13.3.1 for all iPhones able to run iOS 13.x. Apple had released 3 betas for 13.3.1 prior to this Gold Master release. iOS 12.4.5 was also released for iPhones unable to update to 13, but are able to update to 12.x. iPad OS 13.3.1, tvOS 13.3.1, HomePod 13.3.1, and watchOS 6.1.2 were all also released this past week. First, if you have a device still on iOS 12.x and not able to update to iOS 13.x, then yes, release the hounds and update to iOS 12.4.5. The main reason Apple did an update for that old version is for security patches. Actually, that is also the key reason for iOS 13.3.1 and the other updates mentioned, as they are all double dot updates. So before we get into any other specifics, let's get this out of the way. Yes, release the hounds. Some of those security patches included fixing an issue with audio playback with an application that may be able to execute arbitrary code. FaceTime had an issue where a remote user may be able to cause the local user's camera self-view to display the incorrect camera, and there were many other security items around arbitrary code being able to be run. Also, iOS 13.3.1 and iPad OS 13.3.1 both fix an issue with screen time communication limits. This was mentioned on the last episode as a way for someone to add a contact without screen time passcode and thus being able to get around the communication limits feature. According to Apple, quote, fixes, and this is for iOS 13.3.1, fixes an issue in communication limits that could allow a contact to be added without entering the screen time passcode, addresses an issue with the mail that could cause remote images to load even when the load remote image setting is disabled, fixes an issue that could cause multiple undue dialogues to appear in mail, resolves an issue where push notifications could fail to be delivered over Wi-Fi, introduces support for Indian English Siri voices for HomePod, unquote. So per watchOS 6.1.2, quote, this update provides important security updates and is recommended for all users, unquote. Per HomePod 13.3.1, quote, support for Indian English Siri voices for HomePod and includes general improvements for stability and quality, unquote. Again, if you see updates available for your iPhones, iPads, Apple TVs, Apple Watches, and HomePod, yes, go ahead and release the hounds. How often do you think about your socks? Most people probably not too much, but I'm one of those people that will wear socks with sandals just to show off a good pair of socks. I recently discovered socks that, much to my wife's chagrin, will be getting me in sandals a lot more often, and I believe will change how you think about socks forever. They are called Bombas. Their socks are incredibly comfortable, made from super soft, natural cotton with arch support, seamless toe. And for every Bombas purchase you make, Bombas donates a pair to someone in need. Your feet and your heart will feel great about wearing them. Bombas has a really wide selection from over the calf to under the ankle and everywhere in between. They have fun brands where I even got my wife Big Bird and Count Von Count socks. There are also Valentine's Day socks for your significant other. Bombas has socks for women, men, and yes, kids too. My favorite ones right now are the Muhammad Ali red calf high socks, actually wearing them right now. They even have a gift box set for Muhammad Ali. There are way too many to go over, so I will just simply say go to bombas.com/TII to find the perfect pair for your feet and the feet of those you care about. They even have a cute catchphrase. Bombas are what feet daydream about. Buy your Bombas at bombas.com/TII today and get 20% off your first purchase. That's bombas.com/TII for 20% off. Again, that is bombas.com/TII. Per the iPhone SE2, or whatever the replacement for the SE will be called, rumors are starting to kick in overdrive now. First, there are no pictures of said device, meaning it likely looks identical to a current device. Most people at this point kind of agree it will not be the same physical size as the iPhone SE, which is the same size as the iPhone 5 and 5S, which is a shame, as it would be nice to have a device with a headphone jack that fits in the back pocket for most women's pants. But evidently, Apple does not have any desire to get in any women's pants, at least not comfortably, and will likely be going with the next smallest device they have, the iPhone 8. To put things in perspective, the iPhone SE is 4.9 inches by 2.3 inches by 0.3 inches. The iPhone 8 is 5.5 inches by 2.7 inches by 0.3 inches. Everything rounded to the nearest tenth of an inch. The iPhone 11 Pro is 5.7 by 2.8 by 0.3 to give a little bit more perspective. The iPhone 8 is actually much closer in size to the iPhone 11 Pro than it is to the iPhone SE. Again, there are no pictures, only rumors, but at this point, the rumor mill seems pretty solidly on it will be the iPhone 8, but with a better processor camp. And I do fall into this camp reluctantly, I should add. I really would have liked a smaller iPhone SE size replacement, but I digress. Most likely, it will have an A13 processor, but not so much for the cost savings today, but rather 2 to 3 years from now when it is still the low end of phone and still being sold. It would not likely have Face ID, but rather still be the current Touch ID. Physically, it would look identical to the iPhone 8, but the screen would likely lose 3D touch. But really, when you look at the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 11, there's not much difference spec-wise beyond the processor and dual camera. You would likely see the iPhone SE2 going with the better Wi-Fi of the iPhone 11 and also the better FaceTime camera of the iPhone 11, but not the dual camera on the back. Storage options would likely be 64 gig and 128 gig with a starting price of $399. Digitimes is reporting there will be 2 different sizes of the iPhone SE2, so that means definitely there will only be one size. Timing on this was to have mass production starting right after the Chinese New Year, with announcements in early mid-March and a launch at the end of March. But, and this is a big but, the coronavirus may push all this back a few weeks or longer. And Apple is not one to introduce a product but not have it quickly available unless it's charging mat or a $1,000 monitor stand. But beyond those items, Apple waits on the announcements until they can take orders for relatively quick shipment. Apple in the quarterly report said they widened their revenue expectations for this quarter because of the virus. Why do that if you were not worried something you were going to introduce might not wind up getting pushed in, might not wind up happening in this quarter and getting pushed to the previous or the next quarter? One last rumor on this is that rather than call it the iPhone SE2, Apple may call it the iPhone 9. And if so, might drop the iPhone 8 from its product offerings, which really it should do anyway. I mean, why buy the slightly higher priced iPhone 8 with a processor 2 generations older? I mean, the only reason would be if you really, really, really are in love with 3D touch. I mean, that's the only reason to buy the iPhone 8. So yeah, if said iPhone SE2 is introduced, regardless of what it's called, I can't see the iPhone 8 being long for this world. Into the email bag. Hi, Rob. I've been having an issue for a while now on my Wi-Fi signal. It turns on all by itself multiple times a day. I don't know if this is a bug issue or something else in the settings, but this hadn't happened till the past year, and it's frustrating me because it's killing my battery because I'm not in Wi-Fi range, and it's searching for a signal. Any advice that would help? Thanks, Aaron in Vermont. Aaron, I'm going to throw this one out to listeners. If anyone else has had this issue, was having this issue recently, give us a call, 206-666-6364. That's 206-MOONDOG, or shoot an email to todayinios@gmail.com. Back to the email bag. Hey, Rob, do you think the future of CarPlay will involve full functionality of the iPhone without cables and completely being wireless? If you do, how far down the road do you think that technology is? Regards, Rick. Hi, Rick. What I don't understand is why it's not there already today. I don't think there's a technology thing that's holding back. I think it's software. So I'm not sure why we're not completely wireless and fully functional with CarPlay today wirelessly. That's the way it should be. Your phone should be able to stay in your pocket. You get in the car, and all features and functionality should be available to you. You may just pop up something on the screen that says, do you want to add this phone? And boom, go. So I don't know. Maybe we'll get it with iOS 14. Back to the email bag. Hi, Rob. Thanks for the great show. Oh, thank you. I have two questions for you or the listeners. One, every time I get into my car, the iPhone running on iOS 13.3 is connected to my multimedia system. It automatically starts to play a random song from my music library that is in my iPhone. How can I disable this autoplay feature? This is unbearable situation. Even if I have YouTube and it's playing and I get into my car, it will stop the YouTube video and start playing music. I tried to disable it in my multimedia system, but there is no option to turn it off. Isn't there a disable autoplay in the iPhone? And I'll stop right there and say, if anyone else had this issue with their phone, let us know. Again, give us a call or shoot us an email. And then number two, from time to time, I see in my iPhone this rolling circle near the Wi-Fi 3G sign. Like the iPhone is downloading something from the internet. See attached, sent me a picture. When I get inside any app, the rolling circle stops. When I leave the app, using the home button and go back to the home screen, the rolling circle continues. I tried to force quit all background apps, but it still is happening. I saw this issue in iOS 11, 12, and even in the latest version of 13.3. The only thing that stops the rolling circle is a reboot of the iPhone. After the reboot, the rolling circle can start after 1 day, a week, a month. Can you or the listeners also see, if you've also seen this issue and know how to fix it, let us know. Thanks for all you do. Regards, Elon from Israel. Well, hi, Elon. First, for the first question, again, I threw that one out to the listeners. If anyone had that issue and found a fix, please let us know, 206-666-6364, or send an email to todayinios@gmail.com. For the second item, the spinning circle is a network activity indicator. So yes, it means something is happening where an app is requesting data. First thing to do is force quit all open apps. Next, go to privacy, then location services, and see which ones are not set to never, and see if something like a game app or something else is in there. So there's probably some apps, probably a game app, it's giving out location information or requesting data. So you want to change some of them to never. Finally, you can do the old reset network settings trick, but ultimately it is likely that you have an app that is requesting data and the indicator is doing its job, letting you know that something is requesting or sending data. Interesting article from the great folks at the EFF titled Ring Doorbell App Packed with Third-Party Trackers. And I mean, of course I had to mention it. The great folks at the EFF published the results of an investigation into an Android version of the Ring app and it reportedly includes a truckload of trackers that are sending out customer data to third parties. So now, rather than trying to spy on your neighbors to see what they are doing in their front yard, the Ring app itself seems that Android version, at least for the Ring app, well, it's spying on you. Quote, an investigation by the EFF of the Ring doorbell app for Android found it to be packed with third-party trackers sending out a plethora of customer personally identifiable information, PII. 4 main analytics and marketing companies were discovered to be receiving information such as the name, private IP address, mobile network carriers, persistent identifiers, and sensor data on the devices of paying customers, unquote. As EFF states, all of this happens where in most cases there is no meaningful user notification or consent. No mention of any issues with the iOS version of the app. This was all about the Android version. The version tested by the EFF was Ring for Android version 3.2.1. Aren't you glad you're not on Android? And back to the email bag. Hi, Rob. We had been happy T-Mobile customers in Palm Beach County, Florida for about 5 years. We were on the over 50 family plan for 2 lines, unlimited for $70, a great deal. My wife dropped her iPhone 7 Plus and cracked the screen. And as an existing T-Mobile customer, they offered us nothing to trade it in on a $900 new phone. We went to a trusted repair shop, had a new screen put on for $89. T-Mobile said if I wasn't a customer for greater than 4 months, I'd been eligible for a free phone plus $100 for a plus and then another $100 plus for 128 gig. I canceled my plan as I had an iPhone 6 and wanted something newer with lots of memory. I signed up with Mint, which runs on the T-Mobile towers and system. So if you have a reliable iPhone that's on T-Mobile, then Mint will be as good. This has been my experience since April, and I switched my wife in September. We pay $20 each line plus taxes for 8 gig of data, which we don't use all of. 12 gig is $25 per month if you pay 1 year in advance. They also offer 3-month trial and provide the SIM. Switching was a no-brainer, and we are happy. They even gave us each a $30 referral fee for adding my wife's line. Your customers not requiring unlimited data may be able to save money here. Also, I purchased an iPhone 8 Plus refurbished from Amazon for $425 with 256 gig. Yep, 256 gig. And Amazon even spreads the $425 payment out over 8 to 10 months. And no obligation to stay with any carrier. Regards, George. Well, thanks, George, for that feedback on Mint Mobile. Back to the email bag. Hey, Rob, when do you think Beats headphones will use an Apple charging cord? I find it weird that it's an Apple product, but it still takes a Samsung cord to charge. Regards, Aaron. Well, hello, Aaron. They use a USB micro B port, at least for the Power Beats do, as do the Beats Solo Pro wireless and the Studio 3 wireless. And the USB micro B is not Samsung, but an international standard. Beats was not always under the Apple umbrella, so some of their product lines go back to pre-Apple. That said, the Power Beats Pro totally wireless earphones, their charging case does have the Lightning port, and it comes with a USB-A to Lightning charging cable. Same with the Beats X earphones. So it looks like Apple is starting to make the transition to Lightning ports for some of the newer Beats products. Back on episode 486, I talked about the AirAlly Kickstarter project, and it has arrived. It is a 4-in-1, 10,000 microamp hour charging solution. It allows for wireless charging of your Apple Watch and your iPhone 10 or greater, and has a compartment for charging your AirPods 1st and 2nd gen. You can charge the wireless charging case for the AirPods 2nd gen and AirPod Pros, where you also wirelessly charge the phone. So you can use this wireless charging for either the phone or the wireless AirPod cases. It is a nice space saver for traveling. It works as advertised, and I find it's something I have to hide from the kids. And it is now available on Amazon if you search for AirAlly. That's AIRALLY. AIRALLY. Currently, the price is $80 for Amazon Prime customer, which, hey, is less than what I paid for it on Kickstarter. Heads up on a Kickstarter project launching Monday, February 3rd. This is for Hyperdrives Gen 2 USB-C hubs. They have 3 of them to choose from. There is a 6-port, a 12-port, and an 18-port option. Pricing on February 3rd will be half of the retail prices, coming in at $49, $75, and $99 respectively for the Kickstarter prices. That's 50% discount if you get them early. Hyper has released many products on Kickstarter before, multiple ones I've purchased in the past, and I will be ordering the 18-port option now for my MacBook Pro, so I'm going to make sure I'm there early Monday morning ordering it. If you have an iPad Pro, if you have an iPad Pro with USB-C port, or a MacBook or MacBook Pro with just USB-C ports, this is something to look into. I love that they say this will support 100-watt USB-C charging, i.e. MacBook Pro 2016. It also supports 4K 60Hz HDMI HDR and also has super fast 300 megabits per second micro SD card support. Basically, the 2 things that Apple should have built into their MacBook Pro, with quotes around Pro, just saying Apple. The 18-port version has an optical Toslink audio port, VGA, looks like 2 or 3 USB-C ports, and much more. We'll be very interested to see how that works with a MacBook Pro 16-inch and my old 30-inch cinema display. Again, this one is scheduled to go live on Kickstarter Monday morning, February 3rd, sometime around 10 a.m. U.S. Central Time. So you want to check early in the morning to see if it is live yet. You can find the link in the show notes for episode 491 at todayinios.com, or you can search in Kickstarter for Hyperdrive, one word. Look for the Gen 2 version of Hyperdrive, not the others. There are quite a few of them. Delivery on the initial orders they have slated for May of 2020. And the Kickstarter project is likely to run until early March before they turn it off and say it's fully funded. But in any case, if you are interested in this one, get there early Monday to get the deepest discount. And just to be clear, no compensation for me on this, just purely one I'm recommending. Back to the email bag. Hi, Rob. As far back as iPhone 4, I have always owned an iPhone with the least amount of storage, 16 gig, simply because that's what my employer provided from the contract negotiated with the chosen carrier at the time. Late last year, with the average cost of new phones coming close to $1,000 Canadian, my employer switched and no longer provides a free handset, but will now subsidize the cost of a new phone by up to $500. My 16 gig iPhone 6S was getting a bit small for my aging eyes, so I went with an upgraded iPhone 11 with 128 gig, and let me say that I can only now appreciate why you have said all along not to bother getting a phone with the least amount of storage. I used to have to get creative with offloading and deleting and reinstalling apps, using online backups for pictures and videos, even manually deleting podcasts right after listening to them, all in the name of conserving precious storage space on my iPhone. Now I can sit back and enjoy a full iPhone experience with 128 gig of storage right in the palm of my hand. No need to spend time keeping an eye on my storage or see that red app badge telling me I'm running low. As far as the iPhone 11 goes, my biggest wow came from the much improved pictures I have taken in low light. I used to find myself reaching for my partner's Samsung S10 to take pictures in low light, but not anymore. Thanks again for all the wonderful insights I've gained from listening to dozens of episodes. Regards, Claudric Brown. Well, Claudric, thank you for the feedback. And yes, never go with the 16 or 32 or 64, not enough gigabyte storage size. Go bigger. And back to email bag. Hi, Rob. I just got this text message which reads, AT&T free message. You will get a credit on your next bill as part of a settlement between AT&T and the FTC For more information, you can contact us at yada yada. Rob, it seems to be related to a federal settlement over data throttling on the original unlimited data plan, which I was on from its onset to 2018. I don't know how much the credit will be. Enjoy life. Regards, Stephen from Houston, Texas. Stephen, congrats. And I'm going to guess it will not be a lot, maybe enough to cover a cup of tea at Starbucks. And if you're lucky, maybe you can get some of the scones as well. Too British? Oh, speaking of British, we have this voicemail.
Hello Rob, it's Daniel from Wisbech, Cambridgeshire. Just been listening to your review of AirPod Pros. Thorough review, thank you very much. The highlights for me were rotating the shaft 90 degrees. I won't be getting the AirPod Pro. However, love the show, love the place, and keep up the good work. Alright, I bet you're having a nice day.
And a bit of news from Apple. They announced today, on January 30th, that all users in the US can now have access to a redesigned Maps with, quote, faster and more accurate navigation, unquote. You will get a much better view of buildings, roads, airports, parks, and more. And now that the US is rolled out, Apple will move to Europe to get the same detail there. You'll see this, if you're in the US, the next time you launch the Maps app and zoom in. From Eddie Q at Apple, quote, we set out to create the best and most private Maps app on the planet that is reflective of how people explore the world today. It is an effort we are deeply invested in and required that we rebuild the map from the ground up to reimagine how maps enhance people's lives, from navigating to work or school or planning an important vacation, all with the privacy at its core. The completion of the new maps in the United States and delivering new features like look around and collections are important steps in bringing that vision to life. We look forward to bringing this new map to the rest of the world, starting with Europe later this year, unquote. Apple points out in their article that the additional features in Maps include one-tap navigation to frequent places with favorites, real-time transit, share ETA, flight status, indoor maps, Siri natural language guidance, flyover, and let's not forget that you can explore some major cities with look around. Again, the new Maps is rolled out, and you will see the added detail in the US when you go and zoom in. Do you like football?
I'm becoming a fan, but I still don't quite get why everyone keeps asking me to find eye doctors for zebras.
Do you like football?
I am ready for some football.
Chiefs or Niners?
The Chiefs play the 49ers in the Super Bowl on Sunday at 5:30 p.m.
Who do you think will win the Super Bowl?
Those in the know say that the Chiefs will defeat the 49ers by 1.5 points.
Who will win the Super Bowl?
The odds favor the Chiefs over the 49ers by 1.5 points.
Today's show was again brought to you by Bombas. Please visit bombas.com/TII today to get 20% off your first purchase of the most comfortable socks in the world. That's BOMBAS.com/TII for 20% off. Thanks, Bombas, for sponsoring the show and for keeping my little toes warm in my sandals. And before we go today, I want to remind you to send in your feedback to the show, 206-666-6364, that's 206-MOONDOG, or record your feedback and email it to the show at todayinios@gmail.com. Feedback can be a question or comment for something someone said on this episode, be a question or rant you have about something else, an app or product review, good or bad. As long as it is iOS related, it is welcomed. I'm always looking for new artwork to feature on the show that you have created on an iOS device. Just put some TII branding on it and send it in. And of course, we're always looking for more music created on an iOS device to play on the show. This is your show, and your feedback is greatly desired. Also, don't forget to check out our moderated MeWe community by going to todayinios.com/community. When you go there, you need to answer a couple of questions to be added. First one seems to quickly weed out the Android fanboys. I ask, which is the better OS, iOS or Android? And, well, the Android fanboys just can't bring themselves to say iOS. They say either both or Android, and instantly they are rejected. So yeah, it's a nice, safe Android fanboys free zone where you can ask questions or post articles about pretty much anything Apple related. A quick reminder, if you are an app dev or an iBook author, email me if you want your book, iBook, or your app featured in the promo giveaway segment for free. We just need 5 promo codes or more to give away. Simply email me at todayinios@gmail.com, and please include a 60-second or less audio review of your app or iBook indicating you are the dev or the author. Also, when you send in the promo codes, please make sure to let me know when they expire. And finally, check out the TI app, which is free to you. Search for TII in the iTunes App Store. It is the best way to consume the show and to get push notifications each time a new episode of TI is released. It's fully voiceover friendly, of course. Please go right now and download the TI app or get the update. Until the next time, I'm your host, Rob, reminding you, how about those Chiefs? The show is hosted on Libsyn.com and part of the Libsyn Media Network. If you are looking for podcast hosting, go to Libsyn.com. That is Libsyn.com for hosting for your podcast and creation of your own smartphone app. The Today in iOS podcast can be found everywhere you listen to podcasts. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Overcast, Stitcher, and everywhere else you listen to audio.